Everybody, I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit Sports Talk with Thursday night pregame. But before we get started on football, and I know it's a football show, but shout out to Solo Street Beefs West Coast Fight or Street Beef Scrapyard Fighter of the Year. Big supporter of Yankee and the Brit. Shout out to Solo.
Cheers, Solo. For all your support, we'll support you throughout being the Street Beefs Fighter of the Year. Congratulations, man. Well done.
So, Maddie, crazy week in football because a lot of shit could get decided this week, or if the right or wrong teams lose or win, depending how you look at it, nothing could be answered till next week. We could have everything answered this week, or nothing till after week 18.
Yeah, my favorite position is that the Jaguars could get blown out by 50 points and it wouldn't matter whatsoever as long as they beat the Titans the next week. So it doesn't matter what happens this week for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They need to beat the Titans no matter what happens. They could win by 50. They could lose by 50. And that's a crazy place to be.
And a teaser, do the Jaguars sneak into either of our top 10?
Possibly. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? So tonight game's a little weird, though. Both starting running backs are out. We're on a third-string quarterback for the Titans. Huge point spread. Should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys and Tennessee Titans game this evening. Obviously, my new Christmas Dallas Cowboys hat, courtesy of Cynthia Totsmatsana,
Well, shout out to you and yours, and with the good present. And from what I hear, NFL gear is ridiculously expensive by you. So shout out.
Yeah, I know, right? Crazy. I know that's why I've got to wait till Christmas. Yeah. Today is all about whether the Cowboys can make a statement. Getting a win is not enough. So they had a good win last week, a great win. I know Joyce Taylor's been taking over Colin Cowherd duty for a couple of shows this week, which is good. It was interesting. And she was basically saying how the Cowboys win is just a good win, not a great win against the Eagles because the Eagles didn't have their quarterback. And it's like, no, the Eagles are so fucking good. It doesn't matter if their quarterback's in there. Plus, and she was saying that Gardner Minshew didn't have a good game because he threw turned the ball over 3 times. And it's like, okay, I get what you mean. 2 of those were stripped from his wide receivers because of excellent quarterback play. 1 is a mishandled fumble. So I'm not really sure where you're coming from there. So a good win according to Joyce Taylor, a great win according to me last week for the Cowboys. This is about making a statement.
And for me, I think Joyce is being nice, but quick again. Shout out Derek Gates. Any of you Street Beast fighters looking for some fights, that's the guy to get a hold of. So make sure you get a hold of Derek. 4 turnovers and a backup quarterback, and you barely won. I don't know. I don't think it's as good of I think Joyce is being nice. It's a game you should have won by double digits.
Yeah, you're doing that against the best defense in. We're also supposed to have the best defense apart from the 49ers. It was a crazy win. I think Dak played really well, minus that interception, that which was horrible to start off the game. To come back and have a good game from there. I think our defense played really well. I just think they're 2 very, very evenly matched teams.
When Gardner Minshew is in there and there's 4 turnovers.
Yeah, exactly. No, Jalen Hurts is the reason that they beat us the first time. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, those turnovers were all forced by the Cowboys, though. They're not handed. It's not a handed turnover. That's what
let's be real, though. One of those throws was inaccuracy by Minshew, which wouldn't have happened with Hurts. And the other one, Hurts would have broke the pocket and scrambled for 12 yards.
Okay, yeah, but Hurts wasn't playing. Again, availability.
Right, I'm just saying the Cowboys let a backup put 36 points on them, and they barely won with 4 turnovers. I'm not taking away anything from the win. I'm just saying everybody on the internet, too, seems to be, like, putting that up there like, I'm like, I don't know, man. Yeah. I think like a win's a win, and that you should always be happy about a win. I'm just saying I wouldn't be excited to see the Eagles again if I'm the Cowboys after that.
Again, I'm about everything in moderation, and I think it was a great win considering the circumstances. I also wouldn't like to see the Eagles again with Jalen Hurts, however. Like that's where I'm at with it. It's a great win, considering the game that was being played and the way that the Eagles targeted us. And their offensive line is crazy. That their offensive line is absolutely unbelievable. So I think there is an element of any quarterback you have back there is going to do a decent job. Same with the 49ers and Brock Purdy. However, when you have Jalen Hurts, that gives them that little bit of extra thing that makes them unbelievable.
I don't really want to jump really off topic. So if you guys really want to know what we think of the Eagles, stick around for our top 10. But the more I watch the 49ers, especially with Purdy and taking nothing against him, I think that the 49ers are actually there's 3 teams in the NFC playoffs at least that are a bad matchup for them because of the way they play football, because there's teams that can throw big points up and keep up with them. There's a lot of stars on the Cowboys. There's a lot of big playmakers on the Vikings. The Eagles are insane. Like, I'm just saying, I don't know if they're as dangerous as everybody thinks in the playoffs.
Yeah, I would like to bring this back to the Eagles and the 49ers as well, that organizational availability is a big deal for them too. So everybody's saying how unlucky the Eagles are for all their injuries and how unlucky the 49ers are with all their injuries. And it applies to the people like the Chargers as well. No, when it happens every year, it is not bad luck. It is something wrong in your organization. The Dallas Cowboys have an excellent medical team to get guys like Tyron Smith to play any football whatsoever at this point in his career is incredible. Okay? They bring guys back from injuries, from freak injuries all the time. And also, they don't have those little niggly injuries as much as everybody else seems to have. It's the same with the Vikings. The quarterback is very rarely out. The wide receiver is very rarely out. They do.
I got a
get
crazy
little
stat.
niggly injuries, but yeah,
Crazy stat for the Vikings. They have the least injuries in the league, but they have the most injuries for significant players with playing time. It was a weird stat. Like, their guys don't get hurt unless it's Christian Darrisaw, unless it's Cook. It's like the dudes you need, Harrison Smith. They don't get hurt unless it's those dudes. But you're right. And I like the fact that the Vikings take an extra week or so with concussions. They don't rush guys back for multiple concussions, that kind of thing. But you're right. It's organized team recovery that is a problem with some teams. And you and I have been beating the table for at least 2 years about the 49ers. Oh, can't hear you.
There's a point where it's on you to look at what's going on there. There's a point where it's up to you to sort that out. And the Eagles have got a problem with that, definitely going into the playoffs as well. We'll see how Jalen Hurts comes back for them. But just to finish off on the game tonight, because we haven't really covered it too much, the Titans are without Derrick Henry and without Ryan Tannehill and without Malik Willis. You feel like we should beat them, definitely. And with the spread at 14 points, it's about making a statement today. It's not about itching past the team. It's about putting the gauntlet down, showing that our defense can get it done. Number one, again, showing that we're the best defense in the league in terms of rushing the passer, and just getting that done first of all, and then putting up some serious points. That's what it's all about.
Well, for me, I'll give you my prediction. The Cowboys win this game, but I'm taking the Titans in the point spread. And the reason why is that at the end of the game, there's going to be a garbage time touchdown that pulls it within that score, because you guys are just going to run the ball all over the Titans tonight.
Yeah, I'm never betting on a 14-point spread ever. So I'm going to take the Titans and the points. I think, once again, the Cowboys will just... So basically what's going to happen is the Cowboys will probably blow them out in the first half and then run the ball all the way through the second, and then you'll get some shittiness at the end where nothing's happening. The Cowboys are playing their fourth string. And we should move on to this point that
we were going to talk about it.
was just
So that's
made.
a good transition. He's professional. So I'm just going to say Derek Carr's done in Las Vegas. He's done.
Okay. Interesting point raised by Mike Florio. You can't trade Derek Carr.
No, you cut him and save all that money. Who cares about trading?
Exactly. So you trade him. So you can trade him, but there needs to be an agreement in place with the team that you know they're not going to back out. Otherwise, you get stuck with 40 mil. And if they back out, then you're fucked. So then you need to cut him and to stop yourself any of that worrying.
For?
Yeah, exactly. Like nobody's
a fifth, maybe. Like the way he played this year, if you'd have traded him after last year, you'd have got something because he made the playoffs on a team with no coach and but he played like I saw somebody say they hoodwinked Devontae Adams to come to Vegas. And I said, how the fuck did they hoodwink anybody? Derek Carr just played like ass.
Is there a point where Derek Carr has had 7 coaches in 9 years in a dysfunctional organization? For a lot of those years, the offensive line hasn't been good. I still don't think this offensive line is good at all, no matter what anybody says. The process of building that offensive line is all wrong. Has there got to be a point where Josh McDaniels goes, do you know what? This is my fault, rather than just throwing his QB under the bus straight away?
No, because Kirk Cousins has had 8 offensive coordinators in his career.
Right, yeah, but two wrongs don't make a right, though.
They just if you can't understand a system and play within that system, and especially it's time to move on. And I don't care what the system is. Have you seen the way he was throwing the ball? Like, I don't think you can get anything for him right now. And he once said, I only want to play for Las Vegas. So does he retire?
No, there's no way he retires. I feel like he's being done dirty by being benched at this point, is how I feel about that. I feel
them letting the fans know we're not sticking with him, so you better swallow that now.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like Mike McDaniels has just kind of thrown him under the bus like straight away and gone, I'm going to save my own ass and blame this straight on Derek Carr. This is all Derek Carr's fault. So you better hope that their backup quarterback comes out. Stitty. They better hope that Stitty comes out and plays well.
Don't we have like 20 years of proof that it is Derek Carr? Mac Jones looked a ton better with Josh McDaniels. Brady and Josh McDaniels. That's McDaniels made Jimmy G look good. He made Jacoby Brissett look good. The only quarterback that he never made look good is Tim Tebow.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's coming in at it's where they come in at the start of the season, but then the Mac Jones point kind of comes in. But Mac Jones is elitely intelligent, and Tom Brady is elitely intelligent, and Jimmy Carr seems Jimmy Carr. He's a British comedian. Not the connection of Jimmy Garoppolo and Derek Carr. But Jimmy G came in and grew up in that system for a while before playing in it. And it could be the same with Stitty as well. Like Stitty was in that system and grew up with it before he gets to play in it as well. Whereas Derek Carr's kind of thrown in straight away. But I look, it's probably not the best. It's probably not the best fit. It's just the way that it's been done that I think I take issue with. And benching him just seems a bit unfair and unreasonable. When Stitty's your option coming in underneath, and now Stitty's going to come in and throw for 500 yards to Devontae Adams and prove me wrong.
Or he's just going to have a decent game, and then Josh McDaniels can go, bro, our backup played better without saying it, and cut Derek Carr and bring in either Brady or Rodgers.
Right. Okay. So that was my next question. Who's going to take the Raiders job? I've got Mac Jones. Mac Jones is my guy. Mac Jones is the one that I've got coming in.
Because Bill Belichick seems to only like to trade with his friends.
Yeah. Mac Jones is coming in for a 3rd round pick. Something.
And Mac Jones and Belichick, I do not think they like each other.
Yeah, I agree. Like when you watch the stuff on the sideline, and it's not how Belichick can usually get things done by saying, "Oh, this guy's not a team player. This guy's not that. This guy's not that." Because nobody thinks that about Mac Jones. Nobody thinks that Mac Jones has got like this stardom complex about him. There's no way that that's the problem there. The problem there is Mac Jones is a ridiculously smart guy who disagrees with another ridiculously smart guy about the best way to play football, which
And
is it's more difficult.
here I have a little. I like Chris Sims, but I had a little problem with the way he jumped on Mac Jones. Not all guys want to be coached by an asshole, and everybody admits, even if they love Belichick, he's an asshole, and he coaches hard, and that's not the younger generation's way of being coached anymore. My generation of a coach screaming in your face doesn't really exist anymore for younger guys. They're like, fuck you. That's not how I'm being coached, these 20-some-year-olds. So I don't even blame Mac Jones for like pushing back if he doesn't like the way that his coach treats him or the way they call people out. Maybe it's a different generation. And I think a lot of the old football fans have to wrap their head around the fact that this generation is completely different than the older generations. And even the 70s and 80s generation thought the 90s generation was soft. You know what I mean? It's a different game. And people value respect and mental health more than they did before.
They know it's not the best way to be coached. There's a million books with a million scientific statements backing them about how creating positive learning environments is the best way to nurture young minds and create better learners, number one, and therefore better players. People who are more likely to go home and study themselves are people who are treated with more respect in the classroom. And a coach is a type of teacher. I know you're teaching grown adults, but grown adults deserve respect. Like they do.
You can still
You
yell
can't
at
just-
them. You can still jump
Yeah.
on them and hold them accountable, but it's how you treat them. You know what I mean? And coaches who the players love, you can call them players coaches because that's what we always hear the term, but they still jump on their players, but they show them a lot of respect and love at the same time.
Yeah, you think Vrabel doesn't bollock people when they have a terrible, terrible session? You think that doesn't happen?
Patrick Peterson said Kevin O'Connell's one of the nicest guys in the world, but he will motherfuck you on the field if you're not doing what you're supposed to.
Yeah, you think Sean McVay? We've seen it. We've seen it on Hard Knocks that Sean McVay takes people out, like if they're fucking up. But then also he'll go for dinner with the guys if he's invited, or
Sean
also,
Payton.
yeah. As soon as you've been called out, you get called out, and then you get an arm put around you by somebody else. There's somebody else putting an arm around you there, and
they're calling you out to teach you, not to embarrass you.
Yeah, and I don't think Josh McDaniels. I think Josh McDaniels is kind of the put your arm around you kind of guy after having a go at you as well. He's not like these guys that come from the Bill Belichick tree, like Bill O'Brien or Patricia, who tried to be Bill Belichick, and like Bill Belichick can only do that because he's fucking Bill Belichick. He's the only guy in the league that's able to do that.
And he had Tom Brady who let him do it. Now I think we're seeing how much Tom Brady meant to that organization beyond just playing quarterback.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's actually Tom Brady's biggest contribution to it over playing quarterback, because arguably the Patriots could have won Super Bowls with Jimmy G, but would Jimmy G have taken that abuse? Would Jimmy G, like, not as many Super Bowls? Tom Brady's a better quarterback than Jimmy G, but would Jimmy G would have taken that abuse for that long of a time? I'm not 100% sure. Jimmy G is a good example of a guy who would take it, though, but still. So I like the look of Mac Jones as a Raider. I think that would be an interesting place to go. Aaron Rodgers would be so much fun as a Raider.
Could you imagine Rodgers with not only, he doesn't have to learn Devontae's routes, so that's good. So he comes in, not only does he have Devontae, he has Wooler, he has Hunter Renfrow. I don't know what's going to happen with Josh Jacobs, but maybe you still have Josh Jacobs in the backfield. I think Aaron Rodgers could change life there, and you could definitely you can't 100% become top 5 overnight, but you can definitely upgrade that offensive line in the offseason.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's why they need to spend their picks this year. Like, just pick whoever the consensus best offensive lineman is. Just pick him because you've shown you don't have the ability. Like, it was when they picked Leatherwood first round. When they picked Leatherwood first round, I was just sat there like, what the fuck are you doing? It was like, who was the Patriots pick first round? Cole Strange, right?
You
It's like when
remember what I said to you before the draft?
Yeah, like people were laughing at Cole Strange.
Well, I was like, I pray the Vikings can get him in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it makes no sense. Like, that Levelwood they could have got in the 2nd, 3rd round and picked somebody else up. It was that kind of pick, and they've done that all the way through their offensive line, so it doesn't make any sense. So just pick whoever the best offensive lineman is. Trade for quarterbacks because you're not going to be in the thing for any of the good QBs in the draft. You played just a little bit too well towards the end of the season, unfortunately. But yeah, I'd like to see Mac Jones there. It would be interesting to see Derek Carr in New England as well, because I do think Derek Carr is the kind of guy who can take that guy screaming and shouting at you to go get the win out there. Like, he can definitely. He's played with John Gruden for like. There's not going to be much worse than that. Is that Bill Belichick can throw at him?
I'd like to see it. I've always been like a Derek Carr guy. Thought, oh, you can bring the Raiders to do something. But I did see a stat today that he, in his career, has the most losses out of any starting quarterback in history with 9 years starting.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is, like, you've got to remember how dysfunctional the Raiders were like 5 years ago.
Yeah, but think about Archie Manning when he was with the Aints. I mean, that losing record.
Yeah.
Like, there's some bad records out there, and he's got the worst. It's a rough stat to have.
Oh, yeah, it's a horrible stat.
Even his brother, who's quarterbacked a fucking expansion team, has a better record than him.
Right. Okay. Interesting fact that I thought of earlier today. How much do you think that Derek Carr hate is largely down to people connecting him to his brother?
50%.
So, like, his brother was so bad.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think it's his brother's mouth defending him on NFL Network that pisses people off.
Yeah, so his brother defends him, which connects him to his brother, and his brother didn't have a good career, so that doesn't help. There's loads of stuff about Derek Carr's pocket presence being questioned. Derek Carr doesn't have a problem with pocket presence. David Carr's pocket presence was horrible.
I have a firm belief that David Carr was ruined because he was sacked 50 times 2 years in a row, his first 2 years in the NFL.
Yeah, 100%. That's going to affect your pocket presence, but it did.
Yeah, he got ruined. They ruined him. I think he could have been really good on a good team, and they just fucking destroyed him. But
Yeah. I feel sorry for.
Broke though. That record got broke for most sacks. David Carr does no longer have the most sacks, and I forget who does, but it's not David Carr.
Is it Joe Burrow?
Maybe that dude.
Joe Burrow did it and went to a Super Bowl. That's how insane he is.
So let's hit a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk some Packers Miami because there's some stuff to talk about there.
What's good? It's your homie, Freezes Christ. Y'all know the deal. Make sure y'all head on over to overtimehustling.com where you can catch all the latest merch, all the newest mags, all the media, everything, know what I mean? And you can also find me on Winging It with the homies Keith G, King Dale, and Payne Gusto. And you can catch me on Turf Tales with the homie SK. And if you got nothing to do on Sundays, even if you do got something to do, make sure you tap in the Overtime Reactions hosted by the homie Cuzzo. And I cannot forget the homie Jay over there at the Yankee and the Brit channel. So make sure y'all go over there and check them out. And hey, check me out, your boy Freezes, on that Real Talk with Jay. It was a hell of an interview, yo. Gotta do it again. I keep saying it because I mean it. We gotta do it again. I had a great motherfucking time. But anyway, you know who it is. Freezes H, OTH, Yankee and the Brit, Winging It, Turf Tales, Overtime Reactions, Chronicles Podcast. You know the drill, Cush's Corner. It's a motherfucking movement. So move with it. Or move out the motherfucking way. Simple and plain.
Overtime hustling, we hustling overtime.
All right. So there's a lot to talk about with the Packers and the playoff push and stuff, but I quickly want to touch on Tua.
Go for it. Sorry.
Yeah, so I heard Florio the other day talk this shit about, well, if he's cleared to play, he should play and he shouldn't sit out the rest of the season. Maybe Florio's just not as educated on this as he should be, but the longer you can let a brain bruise fucking heal, the better off you are. And Sims tried to point it out to him, but Florio just couldn't wrap his head around what Sims was saying for some reason. But there's a lot of data that says, yeah, you're probably okay, but the longer you let that thing heal, the less chance you have of having worse symptoms and outcome if you catch a second one or another one. And we're not even talking a second one anymore. Tua is up there now this year. I personally, for his own good, hope they just sit him down for the rest of the year.
If you get 5 concussions in 2 years in rugby here in the UK, or six concussions in 2 years in rugby here in the UK, you have to sit out for a year. You're not allowed to play for the rest of the. You're not allowed to play for the following year because you've got serious brain damage at that point. What you're doing no good to this young man whatsoever. And they were doing, what confuses me is they were doing everything to not have Tua Tagovailoa as the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. They were doing absolutely everything they could at the start of the season to stop this guy from playing football. And now he's got, what, is this his 3rd concussion of the year? Or is it an overcarry concussion? Like now they're begging him to play. It's insane.
Well, I don't know what they're going to do. He's sitting out this week, and I'll give a shout out to Mike McDaniels, the head coach. It came out yesterday night or this morning that he was watching film and saw that Tua was making un-Tua-like decisions. So went back and watched more film and seen when his head hit. And because he thought something was off with Tua and like what's going on, went back, found that, and then went to Tua and said, you need to go to the doctor.
Yeah. So what was
shout out to the head coach for seeing something was off and caring more about his players than making the playoffs.
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell seems like not Kevin O'Connell. Mike McDaniel seems like they're all the same tree, same person, really, to me. He seems like one of the good guys of football and one of the brilliant minds as well. Like his offense has guys open like all
and
of the time.
His players love him, but you'll see him cussing them out on the sideline, and he will cuss out his coaches too.
Yeah, 100%. I love that guy, and the podiums he puts out are hilarious. So good.
I heard Florio go when they asked him about it. He stuttered. I'm like, that motherfucker always stutters. Have you ever listened to him talk? I think he's so smart. His brain moves so fast. He has a hard time getting what he thinks.
Keeping up with himself.
Yeah.
That could be it. Or is it like he sometimes just gets on the stand and is just trying to be funny?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
He's hilarious on McAfee. If you've never seen it, go back and watch it in studio. It's hilarious.
He's just a funny guy, right? And so shout out to him. But also, like, those 3 interceptions on back-to-back drives killed them in that game. And they were very un-Tua-like decisions. Like, he is right. It wasn't a problem with his throwing accuracy. No, the 3rd one was an issue with his accuracy, which is strange for Tua. But all 3 of them were just him putting the ball where it shouldn't be.
Bad reads is what
terrible
Daniel said. He said it was un-Tua-like reads.
Terrible.
And so he went back to look and saw that head hit the ground and was just like, you got to go to the doctor.
Yeah, and if that Packers defense was as good as everybody thinks it is at the start of the season, you could be like, oh, they've disguised the coverage for Tua. Oh, they've done this, they've done that. But bullshit. The Packers defense isn't that good. It's not good enough to get 3 turnovers. They're awful reads by Tua, really bad. And if it's down to the concussion, then okay, but they're all bad reads, all 3 of them.
Literally, I have this awful feeling if the Vikings do not put the Packers away this Sunday, then we play them round 1 in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I was watching highlights of the game, to be fair. I was like,
this is the Vikings' chance.
And Jay's going to hate himself.
This is the Vikings' chance to say, we're not looking at you in the playoffs. Go home.
Yeah. Please just put him to bed because I don't want him. Like, please, just get rid of the Packers.
Yeah, I don't like I said, you can be playing awful. I don't want to see Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, and it doesn't matter the team. It's just those two are so talented. For one day, they can have an amazing game and send you home.
Yeah, I'm
And then get
supporting
beat by 30 the next week.
Yeah, I'm supporting the Panthers and anybody who's playing against Aaron Rodgers for the rest of the year for these two games coming up. But yeah, that game was a weird one. If it's down to the concussions, like McDaniel says, then that's very understandable. And Tua needs to just sit for the rest of this year. Just sit the guy, because they look like there was times in that first half when. There were times in that first half where Tua looked elite, was like the stuff about his weak arm going down to Tyreek Hill has to be washed away now, right? Like it has to be. Like he's making those throws, he's doing it every time. Also, play that I loved, Tyreek Hill blocking for Jalen Waddle all the way down the field.
Yes,
great play. I love Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I love their entire offense. The Dolphins are a weird team for me. The fact that they're sitting at 8-7. When genuinely they're probably one of my favorite teams offensively in the league. But then when you look at them defensively, their defensive line is unreal. Like a lot of teams would give a lot of picks for their defensive line right now. It's a really good defensive line. So it's always a surprise to see them at 8-7.
So I'm going to pull this back up. Have you seen the rumor going around Sean Payton and Brady going to the Saints?
I hate the idea of Payton going to the Saints.
Well, he's still under contract, so if he comes back, you got to trade for him anyway. And Brady relieves a lot of their cap issues by not having to go sign an expensive quarterback.
Yeah, I just don't know why Sean Payton would go and then come back to the same team. And Brady could be a 49er if he wanted to be. Like Brady could be a 49er, he could be a Raider, he could be
Kenny, after the way he's playing this year, Kenny would you think? I mean, I don't know if Shanahan would want to bring him in when Jimmy Garoppolo outplayed him this year. If you look at the way he played, and Purdy's not too bad. You got Trey Lance. I mean, like Woody.
Yeah. The 49ers offensive line, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line. Like,
I'm just saying you got three options there that are playing like at least around where Brady's
Lance.
playing this. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So do you bring in Brady? I don't know. Like, and Sean Payton and Brady wanted to be in Miami together this year, but the NFL put a stop to that. So I don't know. Brady with Michael Thomas, Kareem Hunt, or not Kareem Hunt, Kamara, Alvin Kamara. I don't know. It seems like
it'd be fun. It'd be great. I don't want to see Sean Payton anywhere that isn't in a Cowboys jersey. Like, if I'm being perfectly honest, I'll be absolutely fuming if Sean Payton becomes a coach in the NFL next year.
You're going to win a playoff game, which is going to guarantee Mike McCarthy's safety.
I know. That's kind of why I want us to lose out from here. Like, just lose every fucking game. Like, just play it for the long run, you know? No. Like, Mike McCarthy has to get given credit for building a staff and building a good team, right? Like, sure. But he's not Sean Payton.
Hey.
And he never will be.
Isn't the best coaches on his team left over?
Oh, yeah. No. Dan Quinn.
Okay, fair enough. What is this article I just read that he's not going back to the Cowboys next year?
Dan Quinn?
Yeah. Do you hear about this?
I haven't seen it.
I'm going to have to read more about it. I just got into it a little bit before we came on, and then I didn't finish it.
Just stop reading things about the Cowboys, Jay. Just let them come to light, and then I don't have to feel nervous about them the entire season.
I thought maybe you would have seen something because it popped up in my news feed. I was sure it popped up in yours.
At the moment, I'm very off all Cowboys news. If Cowboys fans are unbearable, you guys... We're unbearable. We're really difficult. I'm so sorry.
Every NFL group this year has turned into a Cowboys-Eagles pissing match.
Yeah. Basically, two most toxic fan bases in the league, both in the same division, both teams playing really well. Let's fucking go. Yeah. The other big news in the NFL and where there is a big coaching job this year is Nathaniel Hackett's position at the Denver Broncos.
Is anybody
And
shocked?
no, I'm shocked as how long it took. Like, we all knew after about 3 games that Nathaniel Hackett shouldn't be playing.
I don't know why you didn't just let him finish out the fucking season, though. I really don't, because
Yeah.
they're going to run the same offense with the same guys, with the, but okay.
Now it took too long, like too long. Like, they 2 games left, just play it out. Let the new
Right.
guy come in, and because you're tainting whoever comes in now is tainted by going 0-2.
And the new owner just cut George Payton's balls off as GM because he came out and said he wants his coach to be a CEO of the team, like run the organization.
Great.
So
Well,
he
I
just
don't
cut the GM's balls off right there.
Yeah, I don't think this team's fault is Peyton's at all, right? Like,
I think they're blaming him for the Russell Wilson trade.
Everybody thought that was a good trade at the time. Like, there weren't that many people.
Seattle, but everybody now feels like Seattle dumped bad goods for 3 first-round picks or whatever it was.
Yeah, but everybody thought, like, most people would have made that move. Like, if it was
I don't disagree with you, but he's also the guy who talked the new ownership into giving him a big ass extension when Russell still got 2 this year and another year left on his contract. So, that's what he's getting blamed. Yeah. I'm not saying but I'm saying this is what is coming out in the news of why they're not happy with him.
Yeah. So I'm not sure who takes the Broncos job. Personally, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot barge pole. Like,
well, it's easy to say if you're Sean Payton or a guy like that. There's only 32 jobs of these in the world. So there's certain guys that if you get offered this job and you want to be a head coach, you take any job that's offered to you. There's guys like Sean Payton who are made men in the NFL who can sit back and wait for the job they want, right? But there's certain guys that are just going to take this job if it's offered to them.
Yeah, but there's who the Broncos want and who will actually take that job are 2 very different things, I feel. Like, who is there around that will take that Broncos job straight away?
I got 2 people I think would be great for that job.
Go on.
Is it Mike LaFleur? Matt LaFleur's brother was with San Francisco's now with the Jets. I think he'd be great. 2, the best move you could make, and I heard that dumbass Florio say it, so it makes me mad that we have the same idea. But Darrell Bevel, who had the best out of him in Seattle when he was there, was his best offensive coordinator. And Darrell Bevel did magic with bad quarterbacks in Minnesota for years.
Yeah, is this entire head coaching role based on fixing Russell Wilson?
It has to be.
It has to be. Like, I agree with you, but then you don't make the guy the fucking CEO. Like, that's what doesn't make sense here. What is going on in Denver?
I think there might have been some behind the scenes personnel arguments too, where the GM is putting guys on the team that the coach doesn't want, and you can't have that happen.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely can't have that happen. But there's
we watched Jerry Jones do it to Bill Parcells.
Yeah, there's hey man, like, stop putting people on my team, and then there's making the coach the CEO. Like, there's different elements to that.
Yeah, but if the coach is running shit, but the GM and them are still managing contracts and doing all the negotiating, that's okay. Like, but if you bring a young, inexperienced guy in, is that the best way to pile more on top of him? I agree with that. Like,
yeah, it can't be. Who it can't be is a young, inexperienced guy. Who it has to be is somebody who has NFL experience, which I think is why LaFleur isn't the best.
Why don't they just hire a fucking president of operations? Like, and then you oversee the GM and everything else. You're the de facto owner of the team almost. Yeah. And then everybody else runs through there. So you're always there to put your finger on the pulse in case something's going sideways, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that takes away the owner's power. What has not helped situations in Denver, which is, I'm just flabbergasted because of how great use of the word flabbergasted into a podcast. But I'm flabbergasted by how the Broncos are running what they're doing, because they're a well-run organization. They're a well put together organization, the Denver Broncos. So I don't really understand.
This is
Yeah.
not only is this the Walmart family, this is the Walmart guy. Okay. Like he was the CEO of Walmart for fucking ever. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because they took over the team halfway through. None of this was them, none of the GMs, the coaches. Yeah. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they'll figure it out. But unless you fix Russell Wilson, you're screwed.
Yeah. Coming out and saying, do you think Russell Wilson is fixable? And answering the question, like, that's not going to help Russell Wilson's ego either. Like saying, oh yeah, we think he's fixable. It's like, well, I didn't know I was fucking broken. Like, you
have to know if you watched yourself play this year.
Yeah, 100%. But like the word fixable is not a nice word to describe your guy who you're standing behind. And
they're in a bad place when you see your backup quarterback and your lineman going at it on the sidelines over Russell Wilson. That's a bad look too.
Yeah, I just like, I wonder what it is. I think, who was it who put forward that Shannon Sharp, right? It had to be. Shannon Sharp was like, take away his office, his personal parking space, like all of that. They were
saying that on Pat McAfee too.
Yeah, take away all of that shit, and it's like, well, you've kind of given it now. I don't see what taking it away does for the image. What would be better would be if he spends more time with his team, like more time actually team building and stuff like that. But like, then whenever he seems
bowling with your whole team, that kind of stuff. Seriously.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing. Don't think. But like, also, it's got to be a grown-up thing where people are saying he shouldn't have gone and seen Serena Williams last game. He should have gone bowling with his team, and it's like, right, that Serena Williams has one last game ever for one time in a lifetime. Like, that's work getting in the way of your life too much.
People are so ridiculous on their takes on what other people should do with their time too.
Yeah. Like, he can do both. You do realize this guy's a fucking multi-millionaire. Right. He can pay for his team to go bowling anytime. Like,
or when Romo and Witten got crushed for going on vacation on their off week.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just like that. They're off duty. Yes, he should go bowling with his team. Yes, he should be taking his offensive line out for meals. Like,
right, but Tony Romo did that all the time anyway.
Yeah, exactly. No. I'm talking about Russell Wilson now.
Right.
Yes, yeah. He should be doing all of that shit, but that doesn't mean he can't go watch Serena Williams last game. That doesn't mean if he wanted to fly to Qatar to go watch a team in the World Cup during the bye week, like if that's what he wanted to do. Like, you can do all of those things. Work doesn't have to be your entire life. Like, not everybody is Tom Brady.
And like, that's where you see the good teams, I think, is the locker room. Like, it made me really smile the more I watched Viking stuff this year. You hear about the guys will be like, oh, yeah, as a whole team, we get together, like, all the time. We go to Patrick P's house. We go to fucking Kirk's house for cookouts. We go do this kind. And I'm like, that's just shit I want to hear. Like, these guys really like each other. That's important.
Yeah, I love the Dallas Cowboys locker room makeup at the moment. I think it's what
really
Zeke
like
brings.
each other too.
Yeah, I think it's what Zeke really brings to the table, as well as his experience at the running back position, is how he builds that locker room and stuff like that. Like, they're not practicing those celebrations in the training facility that they do in the what's it called, the Salvation Army bucket. They're not practicing them at training. They're practicing them in their free time, like that kind of thing. They're going out for meals together and stuff like that. And I think that's what Denver have to maybe focus more on with Russell Wilson, maybe bringing this team together, getting rid of anybody who's the toxic problem. I refuse to believe that Russell Wilson is the toxic problem in this locker room. Like, I refuse to believe it. He's way too nice a guy. Right, but the Legion of Boom are all toxic assholes. Like, are you going to tell me that? Are you going to tell me that Richard Sherman is a good guy?
That defense loved him. They loved Cam Chancellor. They loved freaking Earl.
Yeah, there's loving people because they're really good, and there's loving people because they're good people. Like,
Do you
have
really
you
think a
watched
guy
Richard
like
Sherman's
Marshawn Lynch
podcast?
would like deal with somebody if they were an asshole?
If he's helping them win,
No,
yeah.
without calling them out. You think Marshawn Lynch wouldn't have called somebody out and wanted to fist fight them if they were like toxic?
Yeah. If they're helping them win, though. Like,
I think
I
they
just,
just get a bad rap because they were like, fuck you to every other
yeah.
team. I think together.
Yeah, I think everything that I've heard from Richard Sherman's podcast also confirms my beliefs on Richard Sherman as an individual. Not gonna lie, like just
I
the way
like
just the way he speaks about people just
I
isn't.
like when he told that dude on his own podcast to stay the fuck out of it.
It feels like what it feels like is that Richard Sherman made a judgment on Russell Wilson being lame as fuck and holds that against him, and it's like no, the whole. He can still be a good teammate and lame as fuck. Like, that's fine. You can be lame and a good teammate. There's two separate things.
I think their
Yeah.
problem with Russell Wilson is one, they all felt he was fake. Two, and I'm not saying he is, but they felt he was fake.
Right.
And two, nobody in that locker room believed Russell Wilson was the reason that they were winning. It was Marshawn Lynch, and the media was giving all the credit to Wilson.
Yeah, I think their biggest problem is Russell Wilson threw an interception on the 1 yard line that cost them their second Super Bowl ring. That's their biggest problem with Russell Wilson, right? Like,
yeah, and their first ring was won by their defense.
Yeah, like that's fine. Their second ring would have also been.
Didn't respect Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's why that like, but I'm not saying Russell's fake, but I think Russell is cringy as shit, and he would like make me feel weird to be on a team with him. And I'm a Badger fan, so like I always cheered for him. But the more I watch and the more I watch him talk, I think he's just cringy sometimes.
Yeah, but you can be cringy as fuck and a good team. Like, that's what I don't understand. I don't get this whole, like, it just feels all a bit masculine bravado that a guy can't be cringy as fuck and not still a decent
But
guy.
when you're in different situations and you're like you have problems with people, isn't it at some point that you have to look at yourself?
Right. Yeah.
Two different Seattle teams, because if you look at it, it was really two different Seattle teams. The Legion of Boom, and then after, nobody liked him. And now he's in Denver, and it doesn't seem like his teammates like him. At some point, you got to look in the mirror and go, what is my fault in this?
Yeah, 100%. I'm not saying that Russell Wilson shouldn't take any fault. I think the biggest thing, though, that Russell Wilson should be looking at this year is relearning how to play the quarterback position and not shitting yourself in the pocket the entire time. And relearning.
Lost a step.
I'm not sure whether he lost a step. I think just he doesn't trust the system. He doesn't trust the head coach. He doesn't know anything there. And it just, nothing ever got better. And things got more and more toxic, more and more out of place. Like, this whole thing was a shit show. So I'm not sure whether it's losing a step. I think it's just he needs to just trust in whatever system's being put in front of him. And I think instead of focusing on rearranging his entire personality, he should be working on what's on the football field. And I think people should realize that it's a job, and in your life you're going to work with people whose personality you don't necessarily agree with, but that doesn't make them a shitty person to work with. The amount of cringy fuckers that I've worked with in my life, right, that I've not then called out, right, and not made it a problem at work, because guess what? I don't have to talk to you again after we're done with this time at work. I don't have to talk to you. I
played sports with people I didn't really like, but it was never a problem because we just came together for a common goal. And then when we weren't playing or practicing, we just didn't have anything to do with each other.
Exactly. There's 53 guys on a team, and then you have the practice squad. You're telling me that you have to talk to Russell Wilson's cringy ass all the time.
Like, we just tell them to go do more with your team, but if your team don't like you.
Yeah. But, but like, if your team don't like you, like, there's an element of like, you've got to include everybody on that. Like, surely there are just people that just don't get on a team, right? In every Premier League team, there's got to be people who voted for Brexit, didn't vote for Brexit. There's got to be people who are Christian or atheist.
Well, no, I agree with that. I agree with that, but if you don't like somebody, you don't want to go out and do something with them, was just my point.
Yeah, that's the point where you have to force yourself and be professional about it, because you do have to do bonding shit as a team. Like that's just what happens.
But it'll be
on
interesting to
teams.
see who they hire.
Like you were talking about Christmas parties, right? There are people at Christmas parties that like a couple of weeks ago, there are people at Christmas parties that people don't necessarily get on with, right? Well, you don't cause problems with them.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of people at that place, so I am definitely sure there's people who didn't like people there.
Yeah, exactly, right. But nobody causes any fucking problems because they're all professionals in their work environment.
That's true at a lot of family Christmas parties. There's people who don't like each other there.
Yeah, sometimes let's just treat football as a job and not as your entire life. Like I think that's what some people have to learn.
One thing we do know is they will be hiring an offensive coach.
Which makes the most sense in the NFL right now.
All right. You want to burn through some top 10 here before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's get some power rankings done.
All right. Well, I'll just start it out. At number 10, the suspense is over. I have the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right. At number 10, I have the Baltimore Ravens. They're in a good position they're in a good position in their division. Lamar should be back, but they've looked decent with Huntley in there as well. For the first time in a while, they should be getting towards fitness for the playoffs rather than losing all of their fitness going into the playoffs, which would be interesting to see. And I totally like your Jacksonville Jaguars pick because I have the Jags at number 9.
I don't think people realize they're 5-2 since losing to Denver and London.
Is this the Jags or the Ravens?
The Jags, I'm saying.
The Jags,
yeah, 5-2. So,
yeah,
that's pretty good. Like, people can look at their overall record, but you take away and look at what they've done the last 7 weeks. They're playing really good football. At number 9, I have the Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay, I really like that pick. I really like that pick as well. Yeah, the Jags, Trevor Lawrence has arrived, right? Trevor Lawrence looks really good. Doug Peterson. It's amazing what a talented quarterback can do when you get a talented head coach in at the same time, right? Or just not even that talented a head coach, just a head coach that isn't flirting with cheerleaders after games and things like that. Yeah, I've got the Chargers at 8. So I totally agree with your pick there. Justin Herbert is a monster. They're playing with a totally broken down team. And Justin Herbert's still getting it done. They're getting fit at the right time. Austin Eckler has had another great season and seems to be going under the radar once again. For some reason, going under the radar there. I really like what the Chargers have done this heading in towards the end of this season.
Yep. At number 8, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I think with Lamar getting healthier, they're not rushing him back. They're going to be in a good spot for the playoffs. So at number 8, I got the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I think all 3 of those teams can be in any different position. I think these next ones is where we move up another tier here. And who I've got at 7 are the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, a lot of people will think that that's the Bengals a bit low. I'd like to see what their offensive line does without Lyle Collins playing.
Well, you're absolutely crazy because I have the Cincinnati Bengals at number 7.
Once again, we don't look at these before we do them. Just putting that out there again.
No, they've had some questionable things going on in their season. It's not that when they click, they are one of the better teams in football, and things will change. But you also, at some point in these rankings, because teams become so close, you do have to start using record.
Yeah.
And everything, not just record, but everything. And so they have 4 losses. Some of now granted, I have a team above them with, whatever, but there's some, if they had like 2 losses, then they'd probably be way higher because some of the weird shit probably wouldn't have happened. But I think they're talented as hell. They're big 3, if you want to call them, on offense, are as good as there is in the league. I mean, you could argue some are better or whatever, but they're as good as there is in the league. And when you keep Joe Burrow standing upright, good things are going to happen.
Yeah, Joe Burrow dicing up the Bucks was fun for me. I enjoyed that. But yeah, I really like where the Bengals are. Their entire problem at the start of the season was their offensive line, and their offensive line seemed to be going how Lyle Collins was going. Collins looked awful for the first 3 games. Micah Parsons made him look terrible, right? And then he started to get it together, and now he's injured. So let's see how they're able to go without Collins at left tackle. And number 6, I have the Minnesota Vikings.
So I think 4, 5, and 6 are pretty interchangeable in this, but at number 6, I have the 49ers.
Okay, cool. So,
I do think there is 6 or 8 teams going into the playoffs that will match up better with the 49ers than people think.
All right. So I've got 7 teams that can all win the Super Bowl. Like, obviously, everybody can win the Super Bowl this year, but I've got 7 teams where I wouldn't be overly shocked if they won the Super Bowl. So Bengals up, I'm like, okay, you can all win the Super Bowl from here. So the reason that I've got the Vikings there is I'm more on the side of the close wins are actually a good thing going into the playoffs, but there's got to be a point where, like, as you said, you're dicing with these teams and you're picking all much of a muchness, and like you've got to look at the standard of win, and the Vikings obviously not doing it, not having those blowout wins, not doing it by that many points and things like that has to come into play at some point. However, I do think those close wins do really help them going into the playoffs because, again, it's a habit.
And they've played 8 out of the top 10 defenses, and they're 6-2.
They're really good. They're really good. Everybody in these top 7 are really good. This might be one of the most packed seasons that we've had so far in terms of how great the teams look at this stage in the season. That these 7 teams look really good. So at number 5 now, I have the Dallas Cowboys.
At number 5, I have the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, wow. The Cowboys are high on your list, man. They're much higher than I thought they were going to be. Okay. Why have you got the Bills at 5?
Because I watched them play. No, but I think any one of these teams above them could beat them. I would pick any one of these teams that I have above them if they were playing each other to win.
Okay. Yeah, I think when you watch the Bills, when you watch the Bills against Chicago, I think Chicago had a lot more chances to be close in that game than they should have ever been given.
The Bills only win because of their skill players.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And that's scary going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I am scared about the Bills' ability to grit it out. I'm not scared about the Cowboys' ability to grit it out. That's why I've got them at number 5. I think the Cowboys have stars all over the field, which help them in those big play moments. And they're definitely gritty on the defensive line. And the offensive line needs to start getting more credit as well. They've now got Tyron Smith back, which is great. Jason Peters is looking good. It's a shame. It's a shame that they're unhealthy at points. And also, they've got to drop down to 5, maybe even 6. So I'm really thinking about it without my Cowboys hat on, to be honest. With Antonio Brown not there, we don't have a good corner on the other side of the pitch to Trayvon Diggs, which then means Trayvon Diggs is very vulnerable. But yeah, I think that I feel confident in their ability to grit it out in the playoffs. At 4, I have the Buffalo Bills. I think their skill players are so good that they are able to win them games.
Well, at 4, I have the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay. Go off, man. Talk Vikings.
Well, I'm just saying, they against top defenses, they're 6-2. Winning becomes a habit. They change the locker room. And 2 of their 3 losses are to, like, what everybody in the league considers top teams, right? And sure, they look bad, but people could, okay, so if you want to nitpick, the Texans gave the worst team in the league, the Texans gave the Cowboys everything they could handle, but yet the media is still like, Cowboys are great. Cowboys have some bad losses to some bad, like, average teams. Cowboys are great. It's the argument against the Vikings as you don't win by enough points. I think it's the stupidest fucking argument in football. And so I'm just like, whatever. If you win, you win. I didn't know that this was college and how you won the game absolutely mattered. And Florio said this everybody thinks, okay, you win close games, it builds confidence when you get to the like different games and it happens and you're down and you're like, okay, we can do this. We've done it 8 times. But it also, which I never thought of till Florio said it, is it can creep into the other team's head as like, shit, here goes again. The Vikings are going to pull it out. Like, I like the resolve. Would I love to win by 10 points at some point? Yes. But I'll tell you, this is the first year when they're down in the fourth quarter. I'm like, we're still going to win this. Even though I'm nervous, I want to yell at the TV, throw some. Like, we're still going to win this. Where last year, if we were up by 7, I was like, we were going to fuck this up somehow.
Yeah. Plus, you have Justin Jefferson on the field, who's probably like the best wide receiver in football right now. So that always helps. It always helps when your offensive line is looking quite good too, and
they're getting healthy.
When your defense is healthy, it's actually really, really good. Like I'm surprised at the lack of you guys blowing somebody out more than anything.
Here's the crazy thing. So it's a 32nd ranked defense and for one thing and the 30th for something else. I don't remember. But red zone touchdowns, they're number 2 in the league from keeping people out of the end zone. They make you kick field goals. And when you can score with Justin Jefferson and them, if maybe forcing teams to kick field goals might just be enough. And I've told you before, you can call us the worst 12-3 team in the history of the NFL out there. But I hope after the end of the year, you're going, dude, that was the worst Super Bowl championship team of all time.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to I'm not on that bandwagon of like they're the worst 12-3 team to ever play the game. It's just when you're picking between the Bills, the Cowboys, and the Vikings.
In the league, only one team has a better record, and the Vikings get shit on, but do it. Keep doing it. I love that the Vikings are the underdog. I think, one, they don't have to worry about all the media attention everybody else with that record is getting. And 2, it probably pisses them off in that locker room.
I just think when you compare them to the Cowboys, you do go back to that loss, that like blowout, like your mind just reverts to it a little bit.
It does, but then they give all these other teams passes. Like I said,
I don't agree with that.
I mean, you can list every team has a win or a loss that it's just so it's the NFL, and that term "any given Sunday" is such a true statement.
Yeah. Okay. At number 3, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. And the whole reason that they're not higher than 3 is because
you're fucking insane.
We need to know how Jalen Hurts is going to look when he gets back. Like that's like if Jalen they won't win the Super Bowl if they continue to play Gardner Minshew. Even though Gardner Minshew had a pretty decent game, they still won't win the Super Bowl if they play Gardner Minshew. We need to see what Jalen Hurts looks like when he comes back, because if Jalen Hurts' mobility is gone, that's not necessarily a deal breaker for them, which is why they can still be 3rd in the power rankings. However, it's a big string to their bow taken out of their game if Jalen Hurts can't run because of this injury. So we'll see how he looks when he comes back.
I have at number 3 the Cowboys. The reason I put them above the Vikings is because of that win.
I forgot that you hadn't picked the Cowboys yet.
What I really want is I want to see them play again. I do.
Yeah. Do you know what? Me too. I
kind of hope it's like an NFC Championship game. Like somebody knocked the Eagles off or something. And yeah.
I don't think it's a fair reflection of. I don't think that result was a fair reflection. That is the best game.
And I'm not saying the Vikings can necessarily win it, but I just want that. You're going to have to play good teams in the playoffs. Give me that revenge game and let's see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again,
I do want to point out that every big power ranking from NFL Network to ESPN to everybody has the Buffalo Bills in the top 3, yet gives 0 credit to the Vikings for beating them.
Yeah, which is again, I don't understand this hate. I don't understand this hate to the Vikings. I haven't got it. I haven't got it all season. Like I don't get it whatsoever.
It's because it's Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Any other quarterback had 8 comeback victories this year, they'd be praising him and talking about an MVP.
Yeah, who is it who says that Dak Prescott is just Kirk Cousins but with a better PR team? Oh, I can't remember. It's probably Colin Cowherd. That sounds like something that Colin Cowherd.
That's kind of funny. Okay.
It sounds like something that Colin Cowherd would say.
It definitely does.
Also, the reason that the Eagles aren't in the top 1 or 2 is they're getting really unhealthy, like really fast. Like safeties going downhill, but still a great team.
I think you're
49.
projecting.
Yeah, pretty much. At number 2, I have the 49ers. I think their defense is unbelievable. I think they're still winning good game. They've just like the Commanders should be a playoff team. And they've just dismantled them with Mr. Irrelevant, which is pretty wild to be able to do. So their defense is unbelievable. And in the playoffs, I think defense wins you championships.
Well, the Commanders are doing everything they can to let the Packers into the playoffs because they're Carson Wentz, but that's about another story. At number 2, I have the home of the Chiefs.
Okay.
Best team in the AFC. I think Eagles versus Chiefs. The Eagles would beat the Chiefs. So I do have the Eagles number 1, as you were wondering that. I think that game against the Cowboys, even in a loss, proved that they're the best team in the NFL.
They did look really good considering they had Gardner Minshew and had 4 turnovers in that game. But yeah, I've got the
point.
Chiefs.
That's why I think.
Yeah. I agree.
That's like, oh my God, how do you have 4 turnovers with a backup and still almost win that game? And not a 9-13 game, a 40 to 36 game, right? Yeah, come on.
Yeah, I've got the Chiefs at number 1. They have the best quarterback in the NFL at the moment. Their system is pretty unbelievable. Their defense is actually playing okay for the first time in a while. I love that the way that they just march it down the field, which is fun.
I love Mahomes, but they are so going to fuck Jalen Hurts out of that MVP, and it should be his.
Yeah. Do you know what? The fact that Gardner Minshew was able to put up 35 points, even though he threw 4 touchdowns, might actually hurt Jalen Hurts getting that MVP.
Yeah, but you put Gardner Minshew on the Chiefs, and he's balling out too. So, like,
no. I agree. I'm just saying.
So I just think that Patrick Mahomes is definitely right now the best quarterback in football, but I think Jalen Hurts means more to his team and wins than Patrick Mahomes, because I think that without Jalen Hurts, that team's not as explosive because of his legs. And I think there are so many weapons on the Chiefs that people don't even realize, with Juju and MVS. And like you said a couple weeks ago, they've become the best system in the NFL.
Yeah, the fact that they've put Patrick Mahomes in a system has only elevated him. Like sometimes when you put those guys in a system, like personally, I wouldn't put guys like Justin Fields in a system. Just say, right, man, just go out there and play. Oh, but actually a better example of that is Baker Mayfield. Don't put Baker Mayfield in a system. Just tell him to go out and play some fucking ball and just see what happens, right? Or Zach Wilson, just go out and play ball, see what happens. Like have an element of a system there. But guys like that. But guys like Patrick Mahomes who really dissect the game, as well as having those freaky abilities, will tear up in a system. Like I feel like Josh Allen could really do with having more of a system around him as well. So I think that the Chiefs have really stepped it up. Obviously, if they had Tyreek Hill, they'd be better. But because they don't have Tyreek Hill, they now have this systematic and more reliable and more repeatable offense.
And I'm going to leave with this. I know that they'll never give it to him, but if JJ breaks Megatron's record, you better at least have him in the conversation for MVP, because he's been snapping fucking records all season in his 3rd year. Like, seriously, I'm not saying he'll win it, but they better start at least talking about this kid.
Yeah, he should get some votes, right? Like, realistically.
Well, even the media needs to start, like, if he breaks that record, go, hey, he should be in discussion at least, even though he's not going to win it, because we all know unless you do something out of this world, it's a quarterback record.
Which breaking Megatron's record would be out of this world.
Unless he gets 209 yards against the Packers this week, they're going to use against him that it's a 17-game season.
Right, okay. That'll do it. Okay, 209 yards against the Packers this week. That's what we're all cheering for.
I'd like it.
Come on, JJ.
And he's like 240 yards away from 2,000. So that'd be insane.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, he's just a crazy guy, isn't he? Really, like, he does mean a shit ton. Like, he also means a shit ton to your football team as well. Like,
He is so
that's the
tough.
thing.
He
Yeah.
takes shots and just bounces back up. He runs great routes. It's like he's such a team guy, too, from everything you hear. I think the Vikings were so lucky that other teams did not pick him, and he was like the 4th or 5th receiver drafted that year.
It's like I watch things with CD Lamb and go, yeah, he's got that. Like, he's got that. CD has that toughness. CD has that after the catch. He can go high point the ball. He's a good teammate. He does it. He can't do it as regularly as Justin Jefferson. It's how regularly JJ makes those plays.
And he's always double teamed. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just how regularly, like every single game. And while he's double teamed, it's so impressive.
And Kirk was never a guy to take risks, right? Like never. And now he's got Justin, and he's like, fuck it. And like he does, though. I mean, you've never seen that out of Kirk before. He doesn't throw to covered guys. And now he's just like, nobody's open, internal clock. Fuck it, I'm throwing it to JJ.
Yep, let's just loop it up in the general direction that JJ is over there.
Yeah, I know that Kirk's stats aren't as good as they were the last few years where he was at the top of the league in every category, like with numbers. I think this is still his best season as a Viking, even though his numbers aren't as good those last 3 years.
Yeah. I also went through, we were talking about on Christmas Day, we were talking about how Dak Prescott's thrown a lot of interceptions for Dak Prescott this year with 12. I've went back and watched every interception and can say not a lot of them are actually Dak's fault. Like it's not a Dak problem, like those interceptions. Like, obviously he's thrown them and the stat goes against him, and he has put the ball in more risky situations this year, but a lot of them are when we're playing from behind, or like that shitty one against the Eagles, which was just fucked. Like, that was obviously his fault. But then there's a few ricochets in there, wrong routes, like those kind of things.
One thing we got to talk about once the season's over, what do you do with certain quarterbacks on certain teams? Jared Goff, like, you know what I mean? We have to go through all of that, because I seen a stat the other day that Jared Goff has the most dropped interceptions this year.
Yeah, I really want to go through, when I've got some time, I really want to go through PFF's expected interception worthy plays. I want to go watch them all and see how interception worthy they actually are, because some of the quarterbacks that are on those interception worthy plays are wild. So like, and some of the interception worthy plays go for touchdowns and things like that. Like, it's fucking crazy. Like, it's an interesting stat. I'm going to go through and have a look at them.
I'm sure that great catch JJ had in Buffalo would be one of those interception worthy plays.
Yeah, exactly.
Kirk Cousins had no choice. It's 4th and 18. You just throw it up to your best receiver and pray he comes down with it.
Yeah, there's also the where the ref wipes out your safeties. That's an interception worthy play that goes for a touchdown. Yeah, that's one of them.
Took Bynum right out the fucking play. Like, Bynum's got good hands for a safety too. He comes down with that ball, I believe.
Yeah.
That ref just the Vikings have had some of the worst calls on them this year too, like taking back touchdowns and turnovers. But it just makes you a better team when you feel like it's you against the world.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, guys, we're getting to the really exciting part of the season. We'll see what happens. We're at such an exciting part of the season that they don't even have time scheduled for next week's games yet.
I know, it's all flexed.
Yeah, because they don't want like the 3 o'clock games to not matter.
Yeah. Or they don't want to be stuck with Indy getting primetime games.
But they don't ever want a game to not matter, because then more players sit and it hurts gambling lines. But we don't need to get into the NFL and how they protect gambling.
Yeah, if you're putting money on it, you should be factoring in whether players will sit that game or not, right?
Yes.
Like, don't bet on a team that might sit players.
Correct.
That would be the way to gamble that. But anyway, doesn't matter.
All right, guys. Well, it's about kickoff, so we'll let you out of here. But thanks for watching. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.